Hi everyone. Today in this video we'll discuss the next topic, that is the types of testing. Okay, types of testing. Within this types of testing, see here. So actually, why we need types of testing means the actual intention. The actual intention, that is why we need different types of software testing, different types of software testing methods, because the ultimate goal is to deliver the quality product. So to deliver the quality product, then you ensure that your application, your software should be tested in a different way, in a various methods, so that it will meet all the requirements of a customer. So that is the main intention why we have different types of testing. So you should choose the best one, okay, best possible way to test your application. So here we have a software installation, then there may be various platform. We are working on a different platforms, like we are developing applications on a different platform, like the it platform may be varies on depending on the user requirement or depending on client side. Like there may be a different operating system, there may be different network system, network environment, or number of users and types of users and types of accessibility. So etc. These may differ. So depending on these criteria, you are going to develop an application. So you should ensure that based on different or various platform, you are going to develop your application. You are going to test your application thoroughly. So this is the main the types of testing here. This is the main the various the intention behind the different types of testing methods is to the ultimate goal is to deliver the quality product. Okay. Now here in this the first type of a testing is smoke testing. Actually, the smoke testing. The smoke testing is a basic term. The general term. The smoke testing is a general term which is applied to the applied with the software testing. Means here the smoke testing, in case of a smoke testing, is the phrase. This smoke testing is borrowed from the hardware testing. Means, actually, the smoke testing means you are developing any application. You are developing an application, or you are developing any hardware applications and hardware component. So you are going to test that hardware component. So if that is working fine, if there is no problem, if any problem relates to that particular hardware component, so it's going to be smoky. Means it's going to smoke. It's going to fail at some extent. It may going to fail, or it may generate some smoke. So that is the general term applied with the software testing. Now here what happens after integration after integration of all the modules, when your complete product is ready, you tested you completed the component testing or unit testing and model testing. After the model testing, after testing individual models, you are going to integrate all the models. And when you when you say that your your application is ready, so you test the basic functionality of a software without going to into very details. Means just see here, in case this in the term of smoke testing, we after integrating all the models, we carry out the system testing. So integration of models is system testing. Now here what we'll do is what actually you see the functionality of our application is tested. Okay, functionality of application, just testing the functionality of the application. See, we are not going in each and every detail. Just we test the functionality here. Now you just test whether the software is working okay. That is what the functionality means. We are just checking whether our application or a software is working okay, or whether it is fine, whether it is all basic features. So this is we are testing only all the basic features, like the only functionality part, not a structure part. That is, we call it as the functional testing. So these kind of this functionality testing is applied here. Now we just check whether software is working okay or not. So for its basic features, this is called as smoke testing the software. Now this is called as smoke testing. So now smoke testing is a phrase derived from the hardware testing. What actually happens in the hardware testing? You develop any component, you are testing your component, hardware component. If it so sometimes it may generate some smoke, means it may burn while testing that particular component. Now this general term, this general idea behind the testing hardware component is applied with the software. Now, how actually this term is applied means after integration. See, the second point, after integrating all the modules, when your complete product is ready, means your system is ready, like a system at the system testing level. Your basic functionality of software without going into every detail. We are checking the very basic functionality means the functional testing without going into every detail means without going in a depth. Okay. Now, to just to test whether the software is working okay for its basic feature, this process is called as a smoke testing in the software. Smoke testing in the software. Now here the focus is on breadth of the software functionality, not on depth. Means see, we mainly we concentrating more on the functionality of software, not the structure. See here, the meaning here, the focus is on breadth of the software functionality, not the depth. Means and we only concentrating just on a functionality for testing, not the structure of the not on the depth. Means not on the structural part of a model. Now this is see the basic term like a smoke testing. What is the smoke testing? How this general smoke testing, the general term is applied with the software testing. Now here just we are testing the functionality. Okay, only after integrating all the models. Okay, now to check whether the software is working okay, and this basic feature is called as the smoke testing. Smoke testing in the software. Okay, just next point is focus. We mainly focus on the breadth of the software, not see the breadth of the software functionalities. Just we are concentrating on the software functionality, not on the structural part of modules. Okay. Okay, within types of testing, the first we have the smoke testing, and then coming to the next point, that is the black box testing. Now the black box testing, we studied already what is the functional testing. Functional testing is also termed as a black box testing. Now here the functional testing, the black box testing is a system testing. Means see the general term for black box testing is a functional testing. Here we carry out the functionality. We mainly concentrate on the functionality, not the structural part of the modules. So here the black box testing is a system testing in which the functionality of the software is only we check the functionality of application. We check the functionality of application, how this software is whether the software is functionally okay, means as per the requirement, whether this developed application or a partially completed application, because it's a black box testing is carried out at the system level. Means integration of all the modules. So we concentrate mainly on the functionality of application, functionality of a software. See here in the black box testing, we check the functionality of the software. Now here the black box, the term black box means you will need not be able to see the implementation. Means we as in the functional testing, as we discussed in the functional testing and the black box testing, we just concentrating on the functionality. We just concentrating on the functionality, not on the internal structure, not the internal structure of the module. Okay, this is the reason why this term is called as a black box. Means black box means invisible. Means the internal structure is invisible. Just we are concentrating on the external features. Like external features here, the external feature is nothing but the functionality, not the internal structure. We are not going to through the internal structure. So no, here we are not worried about the internal structure. As I said, see the term black box means invisible. Black box means invisible. The internal structure of the module. Just we concentrate only on the functionality of the application. That is the external feature. That is external feature is nothing but the functionality of application, functionality of the module. See here, we are not worried about the internal structure of the program. We only carry out the functional testing. As I said, we are not worried about the internal structure. We are not going in depth of internal structure. We only carry out the functional testing. The functionality means the actual functionality, actual working of the actual output. We are comparing the actual output with the expected output. That is actual result with the expected result. Now, this method is generally followed while carrying out the acceptance testing. Why in acceptance testing means, see here, the system testing. This black box testing is carried out at the system level means almost your application is partially completed, not fully means we can consider it as a partially completed. So this method generally followed while carrying out the acceptance test. Acceptance testing. What is acceptance testing? Is acceptance testing is carried at the end stage, at the last stage means at the last stage of after developing your application. When we say that our software is working fine and this application is meeting all the requirements of the user, that is we are comparing with the SRS document of a SRS document with a. Now, this method is generally followed while carrying out the acceptance testing. Means, why acceptance testing means, see, almost we are carrying out the system black box testing as a development. Almost partially your application is completed. So that is why this term, that acceptance testing. What does acceptance testing mean? Acceptance testing is carried out at the client site or at the client site or at the client premise or at the within organization. We carry out the acceptance testing with we sit with the we discuss with the client and we check what are the functionality, whether our application is working fine with all the functionalities and as per the SRS requirement, SRS document. So just comparing the SRS document with our application. Now see here, the team has to carry out the black box testing rigorously, means strictly. Team has to carry out the black box testing rigorously, means here every testing team during black box testing, they should carry out the testing process rigorously, means very strictly. They have to carry out the black box testing rigorously, very strictly, because the functionality is going to affect, means the main part of our application is only the functionality, whether it is working as per the requirement or not. Initially testing has to be done in the lab and then at the user side. As I said, initially testing has to be done at the lab, means in the lab. Okay, for example, if for example we have any embedded systems or all in these kind of situations, in this kind of domains, we carry out the testing process in the lab and then the user side. User side is nothing but at the client side. Okay. Now this initial testing has to be done in the lab and user side, and next is in the user side. Now this is all about the black box testing. Just remember the points. Like a black box testing is nothing but the functional testing. We mainly concentrate on the functionality of application, and the next is we are not worried about the internal structure. We are not going into the in depth of the internal structure of a module. So no term black box here means invisible of internal structures. Okay. See, the next is generally these kind of a black box testing is carried out at rigorously, means strictly this black box testing has to be carried out by the team. Now see, this is all about the black box testing. So the next is white box testing. The third point, white box testing. Sorry for the number. It's the third point here, the white box testing. Now actually, what is the white box testing? Now see, the structural testing is also called as the white box testing. The indirectly the structural testing. Structural testing is also known as the white box testing. Now, what is the structural testing? What is structural testing means? Here, in the structural testing, we mainly concentrate on the structure of a model, means internal structure of a model, So internal structure, indirectly the internal structure is nothing but the code. Internal structure is the code. Now structure of the program is taken into consideration, then logic behind the code can be checked. What is the logic behind? Means each and every code has to be tested. Each and every code has to be tested within a white box. Means what is the logic, whether each and every statement within your program is working fine, whether every code is working fine, the logically it is correct, all the conditional statement, all looping statements, so those all we are going to consider within a white box testing. Next, here the objective is to ensure that each and every line of code is tested. So the reason behind the white box testing is the object, the reason or the objective behind the white box testing is, so each and every line should be tested at least once. Each and every code should be tested at least once. For example, we have the conditional statement here. For example, we are checking the if statement. We carry out the testing process for a if statement, like if I is less than 5 and j is greater than 6. J is greater than 6. Now in that case, this if this condition satisfies, if this condition returns true, then the statement below the if is executed, otherwise else statement is executed. Now we are checking, we carry out the testing process in such a way that this if condition should be return true at least once, and it should return false at least once. Means we are generating testing, we are testing in such a way that this condition like this if condition should return true at least once and should return false at least once while testing process. Now, white box testing much more involved than the black box testing, because see, white box testing much more involved here means see, if we compare the black box testing with the white box testing, so obviously black box testing is easiest one and the white box is toughest, because we are going through the in detail codes. Now, so this is the best way. We can say that we can, if we carry out the white box testing in a particular module, so in detail every code is checked. Means there is no possibility. There is no possibility like the defect may be left. There is no possible the like a defect may be left within our application. So this white box testing much more involved than the black box testing. Now the runtime profilers are used, which gives the statistics. Now the runtime profilers, we know what is the profilers. Profilers used to the profilers are used to check how many times or how many times that particular code has been checked, the line of code has been checked, and the number of defects and all. So these runtime profilers give some statistics about the execution of a code, the line of codes executed within a module. So now these runtime profilers are used during a black box testing. Runtime profilers are the just like a tools we use for a white box testing. Now this is all about the white box testing here. It's coming to the next point, that is interface testing. Now in the interface testing, so what actually the interface now in the interface testing, what actually the interface testing is, see, we in the interface testing, we generally to know what does interface testing is. In the interface testing, generally we check whether all the models, the interface between all the models, or integration while integrating all the models, the interface between different models are okay, or whether interface between different subsystems are okay. Means we are checking the interface between different two modules or two subsystems, whether it is going to whether the interface between these two modules are okay. Just this is the general idea behind the interface testing. Now here, what actually happens in the interface testing is it is done to check whether the interface between two subsystems is okay, whether the interface between the two subsystems is okay or not. See here, done by the development engineers while carrying out the integration process. So obviously, the interface testing is related with the developers. Why? Because development engineers, or why? Because of developers. Because the developer only know how to interface, how to integrate modules. When they integrate modules, different modules, they know what is the interface, how it is going to interface, how what actually the interface in between the two models or two subsystems. So this is done by the development engineers. So it's easiest for a development engineers, since they are the they are the only development means the developer of application. They can easily integrate all the modules, and they know what is the interface, how see what is the actual interface between two different modules or two different subsystems. Okay. Now here two modules are integrated only when the interfaces are correctly defined. When we say that the two modules are integrated, now so if the integration process should be okay, means should be correctly, if two modules, if you are for example, we have two different modules and we are integrate those two modules. When we say that they are successfully integrated, only when the interface between those two modules, those two models that correctly integrated or correctly interconnected, only when the interfaces are correctly defined. Okay, the interface is nothing but the connection. Okay, without any defects, the connection without any defects, without any problems. See here, the two models are integrated only when the interface is correct, or interfaces are correctly defined. Next, we have different types of interfaces. Now interfaces can be hardware to hardware interface. Here in the first one, that is the hardware to hardware interface. Now hardware to hardware interface is, we are interface means we are integrating two different hardware devices. Different hardware devices, for example, interconnection for two computers using a LAN cables, or using LAN cables. We use the LAN cable. So this is one of the basic example, like we are connecting two hardware or two systems by using a LAN cables. With RJ32, RJ45, RJ45, and some example of like RS232. RS232 is also used for interconnecting two different hardware. So RS232 is data transfer, like a VGA cable is the best example for the RS232. Now here the interfacing calls for specifying the parameters like physical connection, or how is the physical connection between the two different hardware. Next is the electrical parameters. Electrical parameters means the voltage variation between two hardware systems. And the next is the protocols, the protocol for communication. Protocols means the rules for communication to different hardware. And we are also considering like electrical parameters or voltage levels for transmitting ones and zeros. So obviously that voltage level is also need to be considered. This criteria should be considered while interconnecting two different hardware, etc. There are some like there are some other parameters we are going to consider, like for interconnecting two different hardwares. So next is the software to software interface. Now here the software to software interface. See, in the hardware to hardware interface, we integrate two different hardware components. Okay, we integrate two different hardware components, but in case of a software to software interface, we try to integrate two different software models. Okay, for example, we developed any application and we have one more model. See, if we, within organization we are developing application, means the modules are divided into different team members. Means we know how to integrate different modules. That is what we call it as a software to software interface. Means otherwise we can say that if we try to embedding or integrating some APIs with your application. So these kind of APIs also considered as one of the software component. Now here the actually the software to software the interface means two different modules. So the basic example is two different modules. Now the software interface here can be provided by the parameter setting by one parameter module and application with other parameter accessing those parameters. Like for example, if you integrate one module or one module, and you should know what is the parameter, like how the one module is going to access the parameters from the another module in the shared memory For example, you have developed any a module and see the shared memory. If they are using the shared memory, means how they are going to access or how they are going to read and write from the shared memory. Next is the calling the procedure from for example, one model is calling a procedure or a function from another model. So these all should be considered in case of a software to software interface. Okay. Next is hardware to software interface. Now hardware to software interface. So basically, this is a difficult one because the hardware to software means the best example here, the embedded system. Embedded system or see what actually happens. See the embedded system or if you are installing any additional card, some PCI cards or some video cards. So some video cards or some PCI cards. For example, we have the hardware like a PCI cards or video card